You are listening to the We Are West Ham podcast, Opposition View, with me, Will Pugh. Delighted to say that joining me this week is not only our Opposition View guest, but James Jones has decided to dial in on an Opposition View. Very lovely to have my co-host with me on these supplementary pods that come out a little bit later in the week. Even more thrilled, though, unfortunately, for Jonesy to say that joining us is Dan Baylis, once again a returning guest on the We Are West Ham podcast from the Wolves 77 Club pod. Dan, great to have you with us again. I always look forward to having a chat with you because it's normally like you're walking through some picturesque street in London with your mobile in your hand on the way to a meeting or somewhere swanky looking. This morning, we're blessed with your presence from a reasonably noisy building site in the middle of town, is it?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thanks for having me on. I'm out. I work in property, so I'm out on my building site in Battersea by the power station.
Lovely. Very nice indeed, mate. Nah, don't apologise at all. Not a problem. It's great having you on the pod.
Cheers.
What kick off sort of before we get into like results and how you're getting on and all that sort of stuff? What's the feeling among Wolves fans at the moment? Because we're in a weird spot at West Ham where we're 9th in the league, we're top of our Europa League group. We only need a draw at home on Thursday to go through as group winners, and we've beaten Arsenal in the League Cup. Yeah, it feels among a sizable section of the fan base, it feels quite mutinous at the moment. Obviously, we lost 5-0 to Fulham, which didn't help, but it was there before that. What's the feeling among supporters at the moment? Are you enjoying being a Wolves fan and all the rest of you?
Well, I think we've had this chat before. Sort of Wolves fans and West Ham fans are the same. We're all pretty fickle. It goes up and down sort of week by week. So, start of the season, obviously Lopetegui left and Neil came in. There was this massive concern with Neves leaving as well. Wolves had lost some big hitters, no money coming through. We were really worried. So, sort of the Wolves' outlook at the start of the season was, this could be a disaster. Let's just stay up. And then the results started to turn for us. We had a really bad loss away to Ipswich in the League Cup, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, this bloke's well out of his depth, PE teacher, all that jazz." Since that point, we went on a fantastic run of form. Played really well, beat City at home, beat Tottenham in the last minute, which was fantastic. But sort of the last 4 or 5 games, it's dropped off. We've looked very flat. I mean, we've taken 4 points from the last 3, but if you're sort of reading social media or talking to that more harsher side of the fan base, they're a little bit disappointed by the results. I thought we were very flat against Forest in a 1-1 draw. Could have gone either way that game. Burnley, we were awful. If Burnley had taken their chances, they'd have beaten us, but we managed to get a 1-0 win. And at Arsenal, I mean, the first half at Arsenal, they absolutely played us off the park. So it's a bit of a strange time for a Wolves fan. We're quite optimistic because the football we're seeing has been a lot better than we were expecting. We're a lot further up the league and we got more points than we were expecting. But at the same time, it's sort of there's been a bit of expectation growing because certain players have stepped up. Wang, a couple of seasons ago, last season, couldn't trap a bag of cement, and now he looks fantastic. And you're sort of starting to get that dynamic of a team coming together. But all in all, I'd say more of us are optimistic than we are pessimistic, but we need to probably start playing a bit better football in these games we need to win. West Ham are a great side. You're doing fantastically well. You won a trophy last year, all that sort of stuff. But your run of form's not great at the moment. Wolves should be targeting going down there, trying to pick something up on Saturday, but they need to put a performance together to do that. And what I've seen in the last 3 games is they all look, I don't know whether they're tired or, the games have all come a bit too quick for them, or our pace of football's too quick to sustain it over a long period. But just hasn't quite gelled the last few weeks. So we've got to do something on Sunday to bring it back.
Dan, I've just been looking at your results so far this season, and it is literally, it just reminds me of West Ham. It's just so typical. It's like you beat Tottenham 2-1 and then follow that up with a defeat to Wolves. Fulham. And then before that, Tottenham win. Before that Tottenham win, you lost to Sheffield United, and you've lost to Palace this season, but beaten Man City. And it reminds me of West Ham so much.
It's mad.
With that, I mean, from the outside looking in, there seems to be a great deal of optimism around Gary O'Neill and what he's doing at the club and kind of the football he's trying to play. Is that, you mentioned there that there is a bit of frustration, but also optimism. Is is he going to be given the time at Wolves? Because, I mean, I think he's been fantastic. And I saw him on Monday Night Football and he spoke really, really well a couple of months ago now. And it does seem like he's the next upcoming manager in the Premier League to really sort of take the Premier League by storm almost.
I thought that was a little bit of a turning point, to be honest. Wolves fans didn't really know enough about him. He sort of just kept Bournemouth up and then got booted out. And a couple of the comments flying around when he joined it wasn't particularly nice football to watch, but he managed to keep him up. But what we've seen since then is he's made maybe a few tactical bad decisions and stuff in those first few games. Then it came right and he did that Monday Night Football and a lot of people's opinions changed. He's clearly quite a switched on bloke. And at times when we play well, we do look absolutely brilliant. So yes, he will be given time. I think he's gone through that little patch where people are like, who's this bloke? What's going on?
Yeah.
Is he good enough to do the job here? He definitely is. We just need to see it a bit more consistently going forward. So, I don't know, a few heads might turn on him again if he doesn't pick up more points. But as you were saying, right, we'll beat Tottenham, lose to Sheffield United, or get a result against a big club, draw with Luton. That's just classic Wolves. I mean,
do you not think that's part of the process almost? Though he's trying to implement these
great
tactics
question.
In this style of play.
definitely.
You have to kind of almost put up with the inconsistency while he tries to really get this squad, turn it into his squad. You know, he probably needs a couple more windows to really get the players in to really make that style of play effective. And, you know, we don't see it very often in the Premier League these days, but perhaps time will be his friend in the long run if he's allowed to really kind of implement this style, bring in the players he wants and really remove that inconsistency and give Wolves a little bit more consistency on the pitch with time.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I mean, it's not even his team yet. We made a sort of last gasp handful of signings to make sure we even had a squad for the season after, you know, Neves, Moutinho, when, you know, it was a change in the guard at Molineux all round, really. Those players that had brought us up and done so well with us, got us into Europe and all the way through to the sort of final stages of the Europa League. They've now all gone. So we're seeing a new team come through. And our transfer dealings over the last few years haven't been that good. We sort of brought in players that haven't quite made it. We spent a lot of money on the likes of sort of Guedes and people like that. That
bought Dawson out, didn't you?
Side. Dawson, sorry, my light's gone on.
Oh.
I haven't paid the electric bills.
Pounding the meter, mate.
Dawson was a fantastic buy. The cheapest buys we've had, which is like Dawson and Lamina, have been unbelievable. I mean, Lamina, how anyone got rid of him? Absolute workhorse in the middle, picks for everything. I mean, he picks for booking every 20 minutes he plays.
So loves a card, yeah.
Yeah, but he's brilliant. Dawson, fantastic, holding the back together with Kilman. Probably need to bring in another couple of wing backs. We've got Semedo, who's got a lot better as he's gone on in his time at the club and sort of a bit of a first name on the team sheet top player now. On the other side, we've got a kid called Bueno and Aït-Nouri, who are both sort of young talents. Aït-Nouri going forward can look fantastic when he's on his day. But the midfield's a complete change. Lamina, Bellegarde, Gomez have all sort of come in over the last year or so, and they're just starting to find their feet, which is good, but some games they go missing. I mean, we might as well have not had a midfield against Arsenal, so they just run straight through us. And I mean, that purple patch of form we had was when Neto had just hit his stride. He's still top of the assists, I think. I haven't looked since last weekend, but he's got 7 assists still. And Hwang's sort of stepped up and taken on a striker role, got himself up in the goals. So that has changed the team. We're hoping that Neto might be on the bench Sunday. Maybe not quite yet, but that would be a great sort of seeing him come back into the team. We've sort of lost our attacking flair a little bit in the last few weeks, and you can definitely notice that that's Neto not being in the squad. Yeah,
it did annoy me when I saw James put Hwang Hee-chan in his fantasy team. I was like, what is he doing? And then about 5 weeks later, he scored about 6 goals.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
Yeah, that was annoying. But look, Dan, just sort of before we move on to the game on the weekend, you've mentioned Gary O'Neill there, and I sort of, I don't know. It's like he obviously played for West Ham before, and he was just like a proper 6.5 out of 10 player. I can't remember anything remarkable he did or anything bad. he just played football and earned his like reasonable wages for us. Obviously, we're in the Championship, I think, when he played for us that second time round. And he was just like perfectly fine. And I think that sort of weirdly, that's kind of his brand, isn't it? And I think that's the thing. I think his football almost has to be a little bit better than some other managers might, who has a bit more personality maybe, or because he's sort of fighting against his own brand as well as just like not that interesting, like quite plain sort of like, yeah, didn't do anything great as a player either. Not that always guarantees managerial success. But one thing on that I want to ask you about is personality wise. Was obviously Wolves, it's like universally accepted that you've been the most shafted by VAR this season.
I've been trying not to say anything.
Well, no, but you're in your case, it isn't one of them where it's just like, you know, Arsenal fans will have you believe that there's a conspiracy against their club, whereas most other fans will hear that and go, "Oh, leave it out. Like your manager's just moany. You're just bitter because you couldn't get a shot on target at Newcastle." Whereas the whole Premier League are going, yeah, poor old Wolves. Like, when genuinely everyone does feel sorry for you. So I do want to hear about your thoughts on the VAR stuff first, and how it's sort of been supporting the Wolves fan, but also what's your opinion on how Gary O'Neill's dealt with it? Because I think he stayed calmer than most other managers in the league would when he's got the most cause really to completely lose the plot about it.
Yeah, I think he's got every right to throw his toys out the pram if he wanted to, hasn't he? I think it's 9 points now that we've had potentially taken off us by VAR. So another bad one, and we're on a par with Everton. It's
only without the breach of financial fair play.
Fair play, yeah. Well, I don't like moaning about it too much, but obviously we've discussed it at length on our own podcast. And the main thing that I'm taking from all of this is that we all do this sort of thing. Us as fans do these sort of fan channels, YouTube, podcasts, whatever, to talk about football. And it's so frustrating that none of us get to talk about football anymore. You know, we don't want to give up our time to be talking about what some group of idiots are doing in a shed somewhere in Milton Keynes. We want to talk about the game that was played and how great the good things were and the bad things were. Yet we find ourselves only talking about the referees now and the VAR and stuff. And we've had the same conversation, right? People have gone, it's a conspiracy, it's this, it's this, it's this. And I think the whole crux of it is that it's sheer incompetence. If any of us turned up to our jobs and were that bad, we'd probably get sacked. Yet these guys get the backing and get the support every week to go and do it again the next week. And it's clear that the people then setting the rules and telling them how to officiate the games clearly aren't football people. Because if you took you guys as West Ham fans, us as Wolves, pretty much proper football fans from any club, and showed them the incidents without club badges on it, most of us would probably come to the same decision. And most of the time, it'd probably be the opposite of what the VAR have found. It's got to be incompetence. That's all I can put it down to. We had I wasn't going to moan, and now I'm going to moan.
I'm just going to go make another coffee, I think.
we had a penalty against us. Newcastle got a penalty against us at home at Molineux. And you sort of think, two players going for a tackle, wins the ball, bloke goes over, great, crack on. They somehow give that as a penalty, and then it happens again the following week, and you just...
That was the Fabian Schär one. That was proper bad, that one. Yeah.
So it's just
they make it worse, don't they, by slowing things down now? Because when you slow any kind of tackle or contact down into slow motion, it always makes it look worse than what it actually was.
It's nuts. And a lot of these games, right, we probably didn't deserve to win it, or we might have gone on to win it, or whatever it happens to be. That doesn't really matter. It's the talking point of getting things right and wrong and where they see football being. It's
we haven't deserved to win any of our games this season, Dan. We're ninth.
So, I don't know. It's a talking point I don't want. I'd rather do our podcast, talk about the football game and the odd bad decision, because you're going to get a couple in the year anyway. And now we seem to be getting the same amount of bad decisions just from more referees than it was before. The only difference is that I don't get in the pub till 5:30 rather than 5:10.
Yeah. Dan,
Yeah.
just quickly before James asks you about the game, what do you think of O'Neill's reaction to it? Just quickly then, because he has like, would you rather see him like doing an Arteta or whatever when you think, come on, Gary, like give it to him a bit, and they might subconsciously think next time, or are you just like, oh, whatever, I don't really care, it makes no difference?
It makes no difference anyway because these people are useless. But I think at the same time, if he says something, he gets fined, and then it's all over the press. I think you just shutting up and getting on with it and trying to win it as a football game is the best way to deal with it. I don't know. It's so easy for him to come out and have a go at them because he's got every right to. Whether it's the right thing to do or not is a very different question we could spend a long time talking about.
Yeah, fair enough.
Dan, looking ahead to Sunday then, just looking at your away form, just 2 wins away from home all season. Again, Bournemouth and Everton, I think. I might have missed one, I don't know, but I think that's right.
No, that's right.
And you mentioned earlier that Wolves should be looking at this game away at West Ham as one to win. How do you think Gary O'Neill approaches this one with all of that in mind?
Yeah, say one to win. I think one we should try and get something from, right? A point at least. Sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think he's got to go back to his style of football. We've been quite flat the last couple of games against teams lower than us. We tend to, they tend to be deeper. They're not going to come at us, which means we can't get wide and go quick as much as we like to. Whereas West Ham and us are going to play a decent style of football. It's going to be attacking. I would hope West Ham are going to go for it at home, which hopefully opens the game up and there's a bit more pace in it, and that might suit Wolves a little bit. We're struggling with injuries, which a lot of clubs do that, so can't really moan about that. I'd just like to see us press, be aggressive, play the game higher up the pitch. That'd make me happy. It's a tough place to go. I'm not making a flippant comment by saying we should try and go there and get something. That's just how Wolves have to go out to take ourselves out of that mire at the bottom of the table and get into that next step. So just a Wolves attacking game of football where we actually try and put that pressure on. We've had our best performances have come when we've really gone at teams for the first sort of 10, 15 minutes rather than sitting back. So I just want to see more of that, really.
Who do you think is going to play? What were the style? Sorry, James.
No, go on.
No, I was just going to say, who do you expect like style-wise? Who are we expecting? How are you expecting the game to sort of play out then?
Yeah, it'd be a pretty similar Wolves team. Nothing probably is going to change that much. We've had this keeper drop.
What is that?
A keeper change recently. Be quite controlling through the middle. Be quite physical. 2 of the lads like to run with the ball, especially Cunha. He'll sort of drop in, take it, and go. That'll release the wide players to let them get down the wings and try and get in behind if we can. That's how Wang's got a lot of his goals, sort of sitting back, taking his time or getting a nice 1-2. Sarabia, who I haven't even talked about yet, came from PSG, did absolutely nothing for 12 months and suddenly he's turned up as a player. You might have seen his goal against Spurs, absolutely fantastic finish. And he actually looked at one of the few sharp ones against Forest, him and Cunha did. So just that quick, aggressive, getting over the halfway line and pushing on again. That's how Wolves like to play.
All right, Cameron and Dan, it's been absolutely brilliant having you back on the podcast again. Love having you on as usual. Give us a score prediction. West Ham Wolves in the Premier League Sunday, 2:00 at London Stadium.
Everything in my head says a 1-1 draw, but I'd love to say we're going to go and nick it 1-0.
Yeah, I think. I mean, we're beatable. To be honest, it just depends which West Ham turn up. Jonesy, what are you saying?
I can't disagree with Dan, to be fair. I just don't see us winning this game. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw or a 2-2 or something like that. I just don't see us winning this one. We need to win, really, to put that Fulham game to bed early. But, yeah, I don't see it. I think
all of our lads on our show, everyone went with the draw. So,
yeah,
I just think the Fulham result has exploited how poorly we've been playing for maybe the last 2 months in terms of style and a lack of intensity. And I think unless we get that back,
sickness bug,
then unless we get that back, I think we're going to be in trouble and we're going to struggle a little bit. So I'm going to go 1-0.
1-0, blimey, that's still more positive than I thought. Like you were going to be, like result wise. I just got a horrible feeling if we don't clear this. Obviously, we don't know the full extent of how bad this sickness bug is, but with Freiburg on Thursday. By the time this podcast comes out, it'll be after the Freiburg game, so we'll know whether we're through to the Europa League last 16 or 32, depending whether we won the group or not. But I still think it's a game fairly swiftly after that Fulham one. If everyone hasn't quite got it out of their system yet, back to play another game. There's a bit of fatigue in there still, mixing with everything else. It doesn't feel. It just feels like it could be a bit of a banana skin. So I think I'd actually be quite pleased with a draw, but I think it's important for David Moyes and for his, CV and future employment prospects that we win at least one of these games, and we do really need a result in the Prem. So I don't know. I'm going to say a really positive 2-2, but we're unlucky to concede them. But we'll see. Listen, Dan, it's been absolutely great having you with us on the podcast once again. We always love talking to you, mate. So I am actually quite sorry about all the VAR shaftings you've had this season.
Cheers.
But I hope it sorts itself out. I hope you're looking after Craig Dawson for us. Dan Baylis there from the Wolves 77 Club, looking ahead to Sunday's game in the Premier League. West Ham, the Wolves 9th plays 13th, I think it is. So sure to be a freezing cold December thriller full of festive cheer among the fan base who are so delighted to be West Ham and David Moyes fans at the moment. Thanks for listening for this week.